Good day everyone. Our topic is Transportation Policy Analysis and Planning.
Good day, everyone. We are Group 10. Members are REYNA TAMIT, LYZL Villafuerte, Sherry Villarama, and Mark Kevin Yap.
What is Transportation Policy and Planning? It comprises the whole context of economic, social, and political actions that determine the distribution of development, goods, and services. Economic development planning, environmental planning, housing and community development, and urban design are all linked by travel and transportation systems. Transport policy and planning aim to improve the transport system via implementing policies. Policies include infrastructure policies, roads, bike lanes, rail, ports, airports, pricing such as levies on fuels, subsidies on public transport or environmentally friendly road vehicles, road pricing, land use policies, specific public transport policies such as service hours, timetables, and marketing, information and communication policies. Policies have many different types of effects on travel times, travel time reliability, accessibility level, safety, the environment, and cost for the public sector as well as for citizens and companies. Transportation policy objective: to create or support an efficient system which provides clear directions, framework system, good transport facilities at the lowest cost in terms of the resources used. To contribute to the economic growth of the country by providing an efficient, economical, and safe transport system. To improve the quality of life as well as maintain and improve living by providing transport requirement of the people. To minimize the harmful effects and damage to the environment as a result of the transport used. To restrain the rising cost of living in the country by striving for the most economical use of energy in the transport system. Policy instruments: public ownership, subsidy and taxation, regulatory control, research and development, labor regulations, safety and operating standards. Specific policy challenges: cross-sectional issues. The cross-sectional logistics require new information and knowledge to support public policy. Cross-jurisdictional issues. The cross-jurisdictional issues require new realms of engagement and intervention of public policy. Transnational actors requires the consideration of trade and transaction as a policy issue. Four trends that have significant consequences over the context in which the transport policy takes place. First is globalization. Increased intersections at the international level, both freight and passengers. Second, deregulation and privatization. This involves the transfer of ownership and operation of many transport modes to the private sector and favor the entry of new actors. A broad focus of policies. This has enabled better coordination of investments, improving the efficiency of interconnected transportation networks and the related supply chains. And last is social and political. These issues behind transport projects instead of technical and engineering issues. Benefits of transportation policy. 1. The rules by which the transport organization is governed are set down, understood and followed by everyone involved. 2. Common methods are used for everybody involved in the transportation and work in the department, thus increasing operational efficiency. 3. Control systems are established in the operation environment within the organization. 4. The transportation policies represent the procedures necessary to obtain the maximum benefits in the minimum time. 5. They are necessary to train newcomers to the transport industry and to keep other members informed of the agreed policy.
Let's move on to what is transportation on planning. When we say transportation on planning, it is a prediction of usage, demand, in future travel and to ensure all these necessary facilities and services to cater to that demand. Transport planning is highly essential in shaping cities, enabling economic activities, promoting community interactions, and enhancing quality of life. It is also essential for sustainable development and ensuring safe accessibility at various levels for all individuals. Next, we have the basic elements of transportation planning. First is situation definition. When we say situation definition, it is involve all of the activities required to understand the situation that gave rise to the perceived need for a transportation improvement. Information about surrounding area, its people, and their habits may be obtained. Second, problem definition. To describe the problem in terms of objectives to be accomplished by the project. Objectives are statements of purpose such as to reduce traffic congestions, to improve safety, and etc. Third is search of solutions. Consideration is given to a variety of ideas, design, location, and system configurations that might provide solutions to the problem. Fourth is analysis of performance. To estimate how each of the proposed alternatives would perform under present and future condition. Fifth is evaluation of alternatives. To determine how well each alternative will be achieve the objectives of the project. And 6 is choice of project. This means made after considering all the factors involved. And lastly, specification and constructions means once the transportation project has been selected, the project moved into the detailed design phase, which each of the components of the facilities is specified. Next, we have transportation planning process. First is goals and objectives. When we say goals and objectives, while the goal of traditional transport policy, improving accessibility, is still valid, it must be considered in the context of other desirable goals. For instance, improving safety and health, reducing vehicle emissions, improving equity, enhancing economic opportunities, improving community livability, and promoting mobility are all valid, but the prioritization of goals results in a very different planning process. Defining goals becomes a much more complicated stage in contemporary planning and can lead to conflicts. Increasingly, goals have turned to consider managing demand rather than trying to build capacity. Second is option. Given the possible range of goals are that transport planners must be considered, providing a set of possible options becomes necessary. Several objectives may be desirable, and thus it is important to consider what they imply. Several scenarios may have to be considered, and they must become important components of the planning process. Third is identification of actors, institutions, and stakeholders. Given that transport planning has the potential to influence so many elements of society, it is important that those affected by the transport problem and its potential resolution should be identified so that they can be engaged. This would be a much broader list of affected parties than those involved in transportation activity and requires recognizing a role for citizen participation. Failure to do so runs the risk of a project meeting significant opposition from stakeholders, perceiving that they have been left out or can be negatively impacted. Fourth is predicting outcomes, identifying benefits, and assessing cost. This stage of predicting the outcomes for each of the options is a critical step in the process. Models continue to play an important role, but whereas the traditional models were based on the number of trips, increasingly, modeling is becoming more activity-based. Urban transport is seen in the context of scheduling households' decisions in time and space. Demographic and social data are used extensively, and mathematical models have become more sophisticated. Nevertheless, there are rules for the other types of analysis, including the non-objective forecast. The predicted outcomes must then be assessed to their benefits and costs. This must be expressed in monetary terms, but many transport planning situations call for measurement in other terms, such as visual effects, environmental externalities, and employment impacts. Lastly is choosing a course of action. Evaluation of the scenarios must be considered the cost and benefits from the frequently conflicting perspectives of the stakeholders and actors. Extensive public consultation may be required, potentially creating delays. The information must be disseminated and explained so an informed public can participate in the debate. Ultimately, it will be the politicians who decide. Still, they are swayed by the strength of the arguments presented by the transport professionals and, in publicly contentious cases, by pressure for interest groups.